I'd like to call the March 11th, 2025 regular county council meeting to order at 9:30. We'll start with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge Athabasca County is located on First Nations Treaty 6 and Treaty 8 traditional territory. We respect and honor all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples' connection to these lands, their history, language, and culture. So the first item up is the agenda. I would like to make one note that is my mistake, and I would like to correct 12.5, which reads section 17(1) of the FOIP Act. It actually should be FOIP 19(1), confidential evaluations. So that's that one correction there. Are there any additions or deletions? Nobody? Counselor Hall, additions or deletions?
I think we need to add 7.1. 7.2 does not have a complete recommendation, so that has to be on the agenda. 6.1 is a bylaw. The delegations 4.1 and 4.2.
May I run through all of those that I've?
Sorry, you were asking, so I.
Yeah, the additions and deletions first, and then I would go through.
Okay, then I would also propose we delete 5.1 as it does not meet either section 13.4 or 15.7 of the procedural bylaw.
Okay. All right, so deletion of 5.1,
Yeah, it's ineligible to be here.
understood? All right, I don't think there's anyone opposing the deletion. Okay, so the items will, as per the procedural bylaw 9.8, will go around the room and ask councillors, of course, which items they wish to debate. The items that I am aware of so far are 2.1, 4.1, 4.2, 6.1, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 8.1A, 8.2, 11.1H, 11.1J. And then, of course, all of number 12, 12.1, 12.2, 12.3, 12.4, and 12.5. Are there any further?
Did you say 7.4?
7.4, I'll add that. No, I didn't, but thank you. 7.4. Anybody else?
I wasn't, because 7.6 is to bring it back in the future and 7.5 is.
No? Okay. I'll run through those one more time. I'll run through those one more time. 2.1, 4.1, 4.2, 6.1, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4, 8.1A, 8.2, 11.1H, and 11.1J. And come to think of it, I just wanted to double check 7.6. No, that's fine. Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? Go ahead.
I'd like to put down 5.2.
Okay, 5.2. All right. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Just to confirm, we're deleting 5.1?
We're deleting 5.1. Yes. Are we all good? Do we have a motion to accept as amended? Counselor Chamzik would like to accept the approval of the agenda as amended. All those in favor? No opposed, so that will be 8-0. Thank you. And we have our delegates starting at 10 a.m. and another one at 11 a.m. So we'll move to 5.2 on your agenda, renaming Baptiste Drive to Pack Beach Drive, page 47 of your agenda package.
I put that one on, I'll do the recommended motion. And I put it on there just to say that it's awesome to see that it was sent out, great work sent out. All the people were asked what they thought. And it sounds like it was a unanimous decision. 75% of the people got back. That's great. It's great to hear. So I just want to say thank you very much for that. And I'm sure there'll be a few people happy with that. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Those mail outs are super effective, aren't they? It's fantastic. All right. So the recommended motion by Councillor Mins is that County Council approves the renaming of a portion of Baptiste Drive to Pack Beach Drive, starting at the junction of Township Road 671 and Range Road 241, and further to direct administration to install a road name sign. Go ahead.
Are we to assume that administration then will update Google Maps and the emergency services, the 911 dispatch, all of those things?
Yes, through the chair. Yes, it's actually in here that we will update everything that's required.
Okay. Are we ready for the question? No further discussion? All those in favor? And opposed? 8-0. Thank you. Alrighty, we move to bylaws, 6.1, page 55 of your agenda. The recommendation here is to give first reading of bylaw 004-2025, road closure north of Northwest 346420 west of 4 and south of Southwest 36520 west of 4. And to direct administration to schedule and advertise the public hearing on April 11, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. for bylaw 004-2025. Does administration have any? No? Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I'll make the recommended motion.
Okay, Councillor Anderson would like to make that recommended motion. So we will go to first reading.
As a follow-up,
Yep, go ahead.
ask a question. When this item was brought to us the first time and went through first reading, was it sent to the minister? And just took too long to get here, or was there just a step that was missed in the process?
Madam Chair, members of council, I believe a step was missed. So we did get first reading. There was a public hearing held, but the minister never did receive the bylaw. So we have to start the process over. So after granting first reading, going through the public hearing, and then the next step would be to send it to the minister.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's great information to have. Just if it was sent to the minister and they took too long, thought this was an opportunity where we could raise it at RMA and say, hey, this process needs to be expedited. So thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Hall?
Two questions, I guess, or comments. Well, before this gets, the presumption is that we're headed down a path to sell this road allowance to an adjacent landowner. Will that sale come back in front of council before it happens?
Madam Chair, members of council, I'd have to read through the policy for land purchases. I can confirm that, Councillor Hall, and get back to council.
And then secondly, you know, sometimes I think we're overcomplicating things. When I think about the first time this was presented to council, what really we're looking to have happen is for the landowner to have control of that space and to be able to farm it. Why are we going through all the hassle of closure and public hearing, and why don't we just issue a 99-year lease and be done? And then the landowner gets effectively what they want, which is control of the land and use of the land. And the matter is resolved by Friday of next week. So I'm opposed to the bylaw after having some time to rethink it. I'm wondering why we wouldn't just lease, and maybe admin has a convincing.
Madam Chair, whatever disposition you want to, if you want to close it to the public, you have to go through road closure bylaw.
Okay. Is that anybody else? So if we're ready for the question to give first reading of bylaw 004-2025 road closure, as well as to direct administration to schedule and advertise the public hearing on April 11, 2025 for bylaw 004-2025. All those in favor? And opposed? 7-1. Thank you. And we move to item 7.1, page 63 of your agenda.
Madam Chair, we need the bylaw for the
I'm
public
sorry?
hearing, the public hearing.
Yeah, it's included in that motion. Okay. All right. Alrighty, so 7.1 under new business Township Road 671A. The recommendation is that council approve a budget allocation of $294,000 to facilitate the drainage improvements and other work associated with improving this portion of the roadway. Councilor Mintz,
I'll move that motion.
thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Hall.
You know, we've often talked about making better motions and making motions clear, and this is a motion that I think is not acceptably clear for passing at this table. This portion of roadway defines absolutely nothing, and nobody reading that could have any possible idea what that means. So I wonder why we wouldn't further replace the words this portion of roadway with whatever the defined portion of roadway is. You know, beginning at the southwest corner of section 8, 6723, and continuing for whatever number distance we're doing. But step back and look at that motion in 6 weeks and tell me what this portion is. Now, I know there's only, I think, one 671A, but are we doing 500 meters of it? Are we doing 700 meters of it? Are we doing 1,500 meters? I just don't think it's adequate in terms of, so, and because I don't have a memory from a prior briefing from admin on the exact distance. I think the motion is too weak to pass and we need to further define what quote this portion means. And I can't amend it because I don't have the details.
Madam Chair, our apologies if council wants to table this, perhaps entertain a tabling motion, and we're happy to bring back some details at March 27th.
Okay. Is that your satisfaction to table? Okay, you would like to table? Okay, Councillor Gerlach would like to table Township Road 671A that council approved the budget allocation. And because this is non-debatable, we'll go right to the question. All those in favor? And opposed? 7 and 1. Thank you. Item 7.2, page 65 of your agenda. This is a sponsorship request for Athabasca Ukrainian Folk Dance Club 50th anniversary. The recommendation is that council approves a level of sponsorship funding for Athabasca Ukrainian Folk Dance Club's 50th anniversary celebration, showcase, supper, and dance, and further to source the funds from the grants to organization budget. Is there a motion you'd like to recommendation? Okay, Councillor Mins as recommended.
This is an unclear motion once again, Reeve. Could we have Councillor Min specify the dollars that he'd like to see done?
Okay, we'll go with the,
Or I could give you an idea.
yeah, well, I think it was voting where they're actually asking for $2,000, so it'd be the silver level, isn't it? Or we can go with the gold level, it don't matter to me. I think we should. Okay, well, let's go with the gold level. Let's go there.
Gold?
These guys have been around for 50 years, and I think if
Yeah.
you do the math and say, let's give them $50 for every year they've existed, it's $2,500. It's not a giant sponsorship, and it's not like 50th anniversaries come around very often. Although just to be a bit fun, I would amend your number and propose we go to 2,550 with the extra 50 representing optimism for their future, but also gets us to platinum.
Sure. Whatever.
Madam Chair and members of council, I just want to add that we purposely left that motion a bit ambiguous, so council can add the dollar value, and you'll see that in the following RFD as well. We didn't want to make the decision. We wanted to leave that to council to make that decision.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Alrighty, is there any further discussion on the amount of $2,550 as the sponsorship level of a gold level plus? Or we're going to platinum. Thank you.
Platinum.
Platinum because of the
Platinum level.
2550. Thank you. Platinum. All right. Do we have that motion? Okay. You're okay with it? Please.
Moved by Counselor Mins that council approves a gold level platinum sponsorship in the amount of $2,550 for the Ukrainian Folk Dance Club's 50th anniversary celebration showcase, supper and dance, and further to source the funds from the grants to organizations budget.
Thank you. Did I hear gold and platinum?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll remove the words gold and leave it as platinum. Okay, is that
Sure.
satisfactory, everybody?
Yep.
All right. There's no further discussion. Are we ready for the question? All right, all those in favor? And opposed? 1, 7 and 1. All righty, moving right along here, folks, to 7.3, page 85 of your agenda. And I believe this is the same as the last request is for council to determine that amount. So what this is for is sponsorship requests 2025 Hockey Alberta U15 Tier 3 Provincial Championship Tournament. The recommendation is that council approves a level of sponsorship funding for Athabascan District Minor Hockey Association's Hockey Alberta event, and further to source the funds from the grants to organization budget. I believe their request here, and I'm not seeing it right away. Was it how much? I'm sorry. Page 85, thank you. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. It's not popping out at me. Bronze, so there we have, here we go, Dream Builder, up to $200, bronze, $200 and up, silver, 500 and up, gold, 750, platinum, 1,000 and up. Go ahead, please.
I think it's excellent that we can have this kind of event in our community, and I would like to make the recommended motion. Thank you. I'll make the recommended motion as a platinum sponsor as well for a 1,000. I don't have to make $1,001, but 1,000. They're not making us do that. I think that this is we're reaching a lot of people and a lot of community members.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to weigh in here? So, okay, Councillor Kapitaniak would like to move the recommended motion to include platinum, $1,000. Okay, the council approves the platinum $1,000 sponsorship funding for Athabascan District Minor Hockey Association's Hockey Alberta event, and further to source the funds from the grants to organizations budget. All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor? Unopposed? That's 8-0, thank you. We're flying right through here, folks. 7.4, page 103 of your agenda package. This is the RMA Spring 2025 submitted resolutions. And I believe Councillor Hall.
I think this is probably a long discussion, and I noticed the delegation for 10 o'clock walked in. I'm wondering if we want to
Take a recess?
move to the delegation earlier,
Sure,
if that suits you, and
absolutely. If we can take a short recess, and we will come back to 7.3 after our delegation.
Perfect. Perfect. So we're here to talk about the Q3 report and anything else that comes up. At the end of it, I'm going to be asking a little bit about our new planning for the new year. I know both Dennis and I will be planning for the new fiscal year here, so we'll touch on that. I handed out just a presentation here that I drafted up here. Normally would put it up for you guys, but thought this might be just easier to go through. So break and enters was our first priority that we're working on throughout the year. In the key things in this one here were during that third quarter, there were 27 break and enters. Bringing the year to date to 113. We're aiming to reduce that. We're aiming to reduce it to 150 reported for the year. And we're on track to actually exceed that number here for this quarter as of checking this morning. Of the 27 break and enters that happened, 7 took place in the county. And when we're comparing it to the previous quarter, the previous Q3 quarter, we've had a 50% decrease in that same time period here. So it's significant work that's being done in that area here. And it's been a lot of it's attested to, which is the next one is the priority 2, dealing with habitual offenders. Some key statistics on here. We're 23 recorded interactions with our habitual offenders in the area. 21 court-imposed condition charges were laid, and 3 of those offenders live in the county of Athabasca or were charged here in the county of Athabasca. What this does, why that's important though, is it does demonstrate the ineffective crime reduction strategy. It shows that we're monitoring these guys, making sure they're not getting away with the same repeated offenses. As a matter of fact, this morning, that was one of our briefings we had, is the guys are out today looking specifically for these guys to be breaching and making sure they're held accountable as much as possible here. I will say held accountable tongue in cheek. For community consultations, we are, the quarter was being wintertime. We didn't have a lot of different community consultations or engagements. Some of the highlights I put on the page here, we ended up running the party program at the Edwin Park School. That was very well received in partnership with the fire department, EMS were there, and then MAD was there as well doing a talk. That was part of one of my new members' projects that he had to complete his field training program. So I totally expect this year to be a lot more in community engagements. We do have the musical ride and things like that coming up this year, so we're going to be planning for that stuff, as well as our annual barbecue. We'll continue looking at bringing that in. As far as staffing goes, so the way we're made up here is we have 15 positions. One being me, this is a staff sergeant. I have a sergeant now, which I stole from Boyle. And he's currently on light duties, unfortunately, until the end of the month here. He ended up injuring his shoulder here. I have 2 corporals. One's been seconded away on a special assignment right now, so I have an actor in that position right now. I have 11 constables, 1 vacancy, and 1 on light duties who should be returning to full duties very shortly here within a couple of weeks. On my public servant side, that's where I'm really hurting. I have 1 supervisor who is gone on extended leave. She won't be back for an undetermined amount of time here, but we're getting help from Lac La Biche. They're sending people over from there, helping us out to make sure we're keeping the doors open here. I have 3 what we call CR5 positions. That's a level. They just get extra duties in that, and a higher pay raise in that. So I have 3 positions for that. One of them's on maternity leave. One we just got back from Wabasca. We had her on loan to Wabasca. She was actually going to take a promotion up there, but decided that Athabasca was her calling, so she came back and is working here now. And I'm currently in the process of hiring 1 person for the CR4 position. That's the entry level position at the detachment here. So we'll have somebody in the process right now, and hopefully have that person up and going fairly soon here. That's what we're kind of looking at for staffing wise right now. And to kind of round things off here, I'll actually leave this to the end here if you have any things you'd like to talk about. So we are planning for our next fiscal year here on other priorities that we want to focus on. Some of the things I'm hearing is from other meetings I've done is habitual offenders seems to be working. That's an area they want us to continue working on. And then instead of just specifically on break and enters, property crime in general. Yeah, it was another area we could focus on here. If you're hearing anything from specific communities or residents that they want us to start looking at, we'll definitely open that up. And I know Dennis has got a few things he probably a different set of things that he's going to be looking at as well on that front. So that's my presentation for you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Sergeant Holt? Oh, quiet bunch, you're getting off easy. Sergeant Pupisi.
Morning, thanks for the invite. Just a snapshot. So I went from October 1 to December 31. I apologize. Usually in the package, I break down the numbers to make sense. Give you a snapshot. A little strap for staff, so I didn't quite get to that. So what I did is I broke down a little bit, just so you know, during that period 3, what we were dealing with. So over 600 calls for service. I broke that down into approximately 7 assaults that we attended. And just so everybody's aware, what's happening with the crime rate, 5 of those were known to each other, so it's personal conflicts. 2 were resulting from fights with strangers, so somebody gets a little miffed on the road, we get called. We did have 4 assaults with weapons or bodily harm, meaning somebody has some injury or there was a weapon involved. No concerns. One had dealt with a 2x4. Those 2 people were known to each other. And a couple were just family member squabbles with injuries resulting. We did have an incident with a male that produced a knife to a couple persons, and that person was apprehended. So that we would consider a stranger on stranger, and that was a circumstance from what I can tell from that file. We did get a conviction in court on that, and that was last fall. I only had a look at 1 sexual assault, and those were a intimate relationship kind of deal. It wasn't stranger on stranger. Handful of uttering threats. We did also investigate on half of the medical examiner's office for human deaths. 3, from what I can tell, were attributed to medical issues, and only one was we're concluding as a suicide. So, and that was into the fall last year. Breach of the peace, that was a bulk of calls we get to. We had approximately 30, and that is anything from somebody causing an issue in the house that needs to be removed, some kind of orderly issues. Break and enters, just so you're aware, we did record about 4 break and enter to business. What I did is I had a look at those files. One had a remote storage lot, fence was cut in a trailer, was stolen. Caslad Fire Hall, remote oil lease site, that was in the Flat Lake area, and then we also had the Buffalo Lake Fire Hall. So kind of vulnerable areas for us where it's not highly patrolled, not reported right away. It's something that we usually get called to after the fact. 6 cottage cabin areas. One was up in the township 195 area, one was in Buffalo Lake, and 3 in the Wandering River area. And then we also had the rural Cereal Church and Hall, north side of Buck Lake there. From what I can tell, it was just somebody shopping for some easy carry items, propane tanks, a lot of kitchen supplies and stuff, but other than that, not much damage reported to the property. 7 residential B&Es, 3 of those were in Buffalo Lake, 3 in the Wandering River area, and then 1 on the north side of Skelton Lake. And those were when people weren't present, so obviously issues were lack of witnesses and reporting after the fact to us as well, so. Online frauds was the bulk of our fraud reporting. It's good that we're getting reports. However, we only had about 6, so we know that's a lot more out there. But we're hoping with the education campaigns and the media, a lot of people are either switched on to it or giving us a call before they become a victim. Mental health calls, we had about 20. Those are people that were legitimately either talked into extra help with family members or hospitalization where they were apprehended and then seen by a designated physician to determine if there's mental health issues that they need to cope with. Mischief calls, those are kind of a potpourri. Mischief is anything from damage to property, interruption with your enjoyment to property. So from what I can tell from those, we had a lot of those were damage to gates. So people trying to access rural properties, or they may have cut a lock or damaged the gate trying to get in just to see what's up the road. And that's reported after the fact. So a lot of that is minimal damage, but at least it's reported to us so we know where those areas are occurring. And then some were damaged to vehicles. So I know in a parking lot, if somebody's got a steering column that was damaged, probably would have been a stolen vehicle, but they didn't get it started. Possession of stolen property files, we had a handful of those. Some of those are, from what I can tell, we had a person that was arrested. Set of keys was found from a property that might have been broken into, and then they have the property, can't prove the break-in, but the property in their pocket, we can prove that it's not theirs. Stolen quad we got with a driver. They were apprehended on the quad. Pretty tough to dispute. It's not your quad and you're on it, so. And then we had some abandoned vehicles where we consider it possession of stolen property. We can't prove who brought the vehicle and dumped it. But it's one of those where we at least reunite it with the owners. 40 suspicious files. That means we determined there was non-criminality, but at least we're getting reports to check it out. So we're still seeing a good chunk of that being reported, which is nice. Gets my guys out there. We might be able to be out in a rural area where you report something suspicious on your road. We might not determine anything suspicious. A lot of it is hunters in the fall, maybe sitting there a little too long, could be waiting for a buddy, but we check it out, make sure everything's legit, whether it's guns or maybe somebody isn't casing your place. It gets us into those rural areas to fly the flag a little bit, and that helps as well. 11 stolen vehicles, 5 were in Buffalo Lake, 1 North Buck Lake area, 4 in the rural Wandering River area. I kind of looked at the ones in Wandering. We had a little bit of a spike in that, but I know we had a suspect from Laklavish that was apprehended after, I don't know how many police pursuits, not involving us, but that person was apprehended, and I know that was a bulk of what was kind of going on in that influx area, as well as North Laklavish and some of the Athabasca area. So a lot of damage done by a very select few. And then we had a truck from the community grassland that was borrowed. Looks like from a driveway, but we did find it in West Lock, so that came home. I think it's a cheap Uber. We did have 1 fatal collision. It was a semi-evolving an SUV. Unfortunately, the SUV driver succumbed to his injuries. And from what I can tell from that and being involved in that, that was somebody trying to pass and just made a mistake. So about 110 collisions we had that were reportable. That's about average, I guess. Those are not injury, but your damage threshold is the reportable. It did go up to 5,000 in January. So we'll see actually if it decreased a little bit because the reporting threshold used to be 2,000. So if it's 5,000 now, you know, you had headlight busted now on a Ford truck, it might be 2,500. So we'll see if the reporting does go down a bit. That's what I can see from a bit of a snapshot into the fall. As far as community events, our staffing levels were down. I was short a corporal, obviously, you heard. I had somebody steal somebody from me. But no, Gavin was welcome support to Athabasca, and he's going to be a wealth of knowledge for both Athabasca and Boyle. He still helps me out a little bit if I need to take some holidays. He'll come over and help out, which is nice. His position hasn't been filled. Still ongoing. We're looking at options and looking at candidates through the postings. I did have 2 constables vacant as well. So what I did with my corporal's absence is I brought in our Buffalo Enhanced member, had a meeting with the band, and said that just due to staffing pressures, I can't have an enhanced member right now. So they're very understanding and letting me put that on hold. I brought that member in because he's very experienced, has the most service, and he's been a good fit helping me out with filling the supervisory duties while I continue with my job. The fall months, we were still pretty promoted in the schools, doing our regular checks, just reaching out, see how things are. Remembrance Day, I think we would, every invite we got, we managed to achieve, which was good. The schools had all their ceremonies participated, mainly me, with at least another constable because of the shortness, and then the Legion, we put on a pretty good showing as well. I feel those community events are some of the most important in the year that we have to show our support for sure. Halloween, we had a bunch of fun. Community brought us a truckload of candy, and we were actually had the boys out on foot, really intermingling with the kids. Twofold, just a good PR. with the kids and the youth and had a lot of fun. And it also just enhances that safety factor if on the streets. And knock on wood, haven't had an incident, so we're really well received by the community. How much else I can share from quarter 3? I can dip into quarter 4, but that would be kind of futile because then I wouldn't have anything to talk about next time. As Mark had said, we're looking at priorities into the new fiscal. But what I will be doing is reaching out like I always do and having in-person town halls. Probably push it into April though. I know last year I tried in mid-March and I found hockey season was really intervening in a lot of participation. So we'll try for mid-April, and then I'll be reconvening with some of the councils just to say what some of the priorities from the community are brought to us. And then as well, it gives us time to absorb what you're hearing as well. My big thing is we don't want to shoot for too high. Just we're not going to have all the staff to do everything. So we triage what we find is the most important. My biggest thing is visibility in the community and schools. And then on the traffic side, I feel it's very important that we work with Lee and all his staff, as well as the sheriffs and the CPO. So I still want to keep that going, which depending on how the summer goes with fires and stuff, we'll put everybody together and hopefully have enough to really get that community safety on the highways, especially in the May long weekends and the long weekends into the summer for sure. That's all I have. If you have any questions, definitely give me a question.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have anything they'd like to mention? Oh my goodness, you guys are getting off really easy today. Thank you so much for your report. And how's the traffic side of the world going?
Good morning. Yeah, thanks for the invite again. I always appreciate coming here and spilling my guts on the stats that we've gotten. So this is a bit of a snapshot from December 1st till February the 28th. Yeah, so I'll just get right into it. So in that time period, my members, so there's myself and 1 corporal and 1 constable. 6 impaired drivers in the area. 1 other criminal code file. Could be a prohibited driver or something like that. We had 5 alcohol and cannabis seizures, so alcohol within reach or illegal packaged cannabis. 24 seatbelt tickets were issued. A total of 17 distracted driving, so cell phone tickets. Speeding and aggressive drivers, 88 tickets. And other tickets could be stop signs or insecure loads or anything like that. There was 54 tickets issued. My members also executed 13 warrants. So if they conduct a traffic stop and the driver's got an outstanding warrant, then they'll execute it there. So 13 of those. In that time frame too, we did 24 operations. So that could be anything from impaired driving check stops to seatbelt or cell phone operations, typically in unmarked vehicles or what have you. We also did 331 mandatory alcohol screenings. So every driver that we stop or road checks, they're under the mandatory alcohol screening legislation that was brought in December 17th of 2018. We exercise that and mandatory alcohol screen every driver that we come in contact with. We assisted the detachments 31 times, so it could be with anything. If they need backup or whatever, we've helped them out. My members issued 34 warnings. Myself, been paying some attention to the Royal School Zone in the last few weeks. Ashton might have seen me there in the morning. And of note, the highest flyer was 89 kilometers an hour in the posted 30 kilometer an hour zone that I intercepted last week. So almost triple the speed limit. We've been successful with our H Road project. So that's a repeat offender and driver that's high risk to the public. We do have an ongoing file, that individual, and subsequently has appeared in court, but some of the charges that we had laid for the driving offenses were dealt away on, so he pled guilty to other matters. So we're going to keep that file active and keep our focus on that individual.
currently incarcerated. We have lots of training for my unit, the three of us on the horizon. I myself have 4 training sessions in April, so I will be busy. My corporal has set up a traffic safety committee. I know he's emailed members of the public, fire departments and other detachments, and they're meeting tomorrow. Just to get a general consensus of what the problems are and the problem areas, so we can maybe focus our attention and let our partners, sheriffs and CPOs in on those problem areas, and they can hopefully put their focus there as well, because with the three of us, and I really don't count because I don't get out much. It's been tough. Wildfire season's upon us. It's going to be here in a short while. I myself was deployed last year to Fort Mac, so I'm sure my members and myself will be deployed at some point. Also, the G7's coming at the end of, in the first week in June. I'm suspecting that I will be there because I'm getting the RCMP motorcycle course at the end of April, so I'm sure that they're going to want me there, leading some dignitaries. Been in the Boyle School a couple times in the last quarter here. I did a talk to the grade 6 class about the day in the life of an RCMP officer and what recruit training was like, and they had tons of questions, and some of them were pretty intelligent and made me think. Just recently, I went and did a drug talk to the Boyle School for all grades. So we did a session in the library on some new drugs that are out there in the schools. From grades 1 to 3, and then we did 4 to 6, and then we did 7 to 9, and then 10 to 12. So I did every class in the library there last week, and I think that was pretty successful. The initiative for March is seatbelt month, so my members are out there, and myself included, focusing on seatbelt enforcement. And next month, April, is speed enforcement month. Typically, the highways dry out and the snow and ice are gone, and speeds tend to elevate. And just a snapshot of 2024 compared to 2023. So these numbers, I mean, they are what they are, but they could be hindered by my members. I mean, we've had basically 2 full-time members on the road as opposed to years past. In 2023, I probably had, 4 or 5 members, 6 members on the road. And overall, the public is behaving. So provincial suspensions in 2023, we had 23 of them issued. And in 2024, we had 6. Impaired driving in 2023, there was 1. So that's a criminal charge. And in 2024, we had 4. So that went up a little bit there. But the rest all kind of went down. So seatbelt use, 2023, we issued 166 tickets. And last year in 2024, we issued 130 for the year. Speeding, again, is down. 2023, we issued 763 tickets. And last year, we issued 459. Distracted driving, so cell phone tickets in 2023, we issued 91. And in 2024, we issued 68. So again, that's gone down. And traffic charges in general and other provincial charges. So that could be anything from stop signs or intersection infractions, disobey traffic control devices. In 2023, we had 211. And in 2024, we had 166. And then other activities could be warrants and that sort of thing. Other duties that we've done or tickets we've laid, 159 charges, and last year we did 121. So overall it was down, but again, that could be attributed to the motoring public behaving as well as the low staffing numbers in my unit. So pretty sure that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And again, does anybody have any comments, concerns, questions? You look like, go ahead.
I mean, a couple of them. Thank you all 3 for being here. I saved my questions to the end, but all 3 of you have talked about the staffing shortages. Can you share what the RCMP is doing to try to recruit more people to to work in your organization, or is there opportunities to get in front of job fairs at schools more, or what needs to happen? Because for rural Alberta, it's a real problem when we have positions available and we don't have able bodies to fill them.
You know, my personal comment, I look at when I was being recruited and, I shared that with my members as well. Back then, you had a lineup of people wanting to get in, good quality people. Don't quote me on the stats, but I believe back then it was about 1 in 80 actually made it in from the screening. So it was very difficult to get in. It was arduous. I joined at a time where you weren't paid to go to training. You didn't care. It cost me money to go. I still wanted the job. I see now where we're struggling to get qualified people that want to even apply. And I attribute that just to a lot of the societal issues, bad publicity that we've had over the years, with, you know, hate, police not being viewed in a positive light. I think we're gonna see a bit of a trend upward, because the pay is finally catching up, where we're making a decent wage, whereas before, we weren't even comparing to some of the people that were in the trades or any job that you can get that isn't as high stress or the commitment to move so much. I believe that our recruiting efforts are good, but it comes down to the individuals. So an area like this, proponent for me to be out there and actually try to attract people that live and maybe work in the area already, that maybe look for that life career change. I believe there is a good candidate pool of those people we could pull from, but I believe that if they're going to make that commitment to pull the strings on some of their commitments they have in life already, there needs to be some kind of a carrot, whether it's financial support or a bit of help to get to that transition where their family isn't disrupted. That way we'll see a lot more people wanting to come to those hard to staff areas. And let's face it, any place outside the cities is a hard to staff area. A lot of it is within the families as well. It's pretty tough for somebody to want to come to an area where there's limited opportunity, maybe for their spouse or some of their children if they have special needs, where I think that's a big proponent as well. So if you're going to be having to relocate to an area that's outside the city where all of a sudden you're losing your spouse's income, it's a pretty tough sell. So I think there's a lot of internal stuff, not just recruiting itself, but I think it took us such a long time to go down to the level where we're trying to come back up now and make policing that much of a career that people will be willing to line up for it again. And that's all emergency services. You're looking at ambulance, fire. They're across the board. They're hard to staff just because of the stress and the toll that it does take on people, right? So.
Yeah, and I think historically the rate of attrition is not being backfilled. So like when the three of us got in over those years, they're throwing through 30 some plus troops a year, right? So if you're having 1,000 people across the country retire and you're filling it with 900, well, you got 100 vacancies, and we're hitting that time period again. So it just seems like every 20-year cycle after people are retiring, it's difficult to backfill those spots right across the country, right? We're not just in Alberta, we're everywhere, right? So that's part of the problem as well. So.
What I will say that, could I answer a question as well here? Dennis alluded to it. So we at our levels, we are out actively recruiting, doing talks with people that may be interested in. As a matter of fact, I have somebody who was my summer student this year. He's in the process right now to try and get into the RCMP. I know that the recruiting uses social media. They use their big events to come to. They'll be coming out to the musical ride this year to do a recruiting drive as well. They are actively pursuing people to come into the force here. And from what I'm hearing from Depot is that the troops are being filled up again. And it's just a matter of time getting them through the security clearances, getting them through that 6 months of training, and then out to these different detachments. And that we're competing against you said that we're competing against Edmonton Police, Calgary Police, all these other big municipal police forces. Everybody's hurting right now for the membership right now, but the drive is there to get people to come back.
The other two follow-ups I guess I had, thank you for that. like lots of my colleagues spend a lot of time on the road, and so I was driving the other day and I got passed by, you know, some crazy with a car that had license plate cover on it. And I just wonder if you can tell us like what's the deal on these gray bulby license plate covers that when the guy went by, I couldn't read the plate at any distance. Is that allowed? Do you pull them over when you see them, smash them?
Yeah, it's not allowed. It's prohibited. You know, you can't have anything covering the license plate. A lot of people say, oh, I put the clear lens cover on there just to protect it. It's not allowed. There's actually a fine for that. Yeah. It also defeats, some of them can defeat the photo radar as well. So that's another reason, but they're not permitted.
I was hoping mud will defeat photo radar on mine.
I will just mention my background is some traffic as well. I did part of my service in traffic. And one of the things that came out of usually stopping those type of vehicles with those plate covers, they're hiding for a reason. And it could lead into criminal acts that they've committed or going to go on their way to commit. So we do look at make sure we get in touch with those people and deal with them appropriately.
Now, the last question I had was you had a really successful bust of stolen property not that long ago, just north of the river. Is there anything you can tell us by way of updates on that, or is it still kind of, and you know, you at a point where you're starting to return property to owners, or what? Can you provide us a bit of update there, please?
Absolutely. So we did charge the one fellow there with possession of stolen property, as well as reventing the equipment. One of the reventing was taken off the table, and the one possession charge was stolen property remains in there. All the property has been given back to the owners. They've been contacted and given back. We had close to $2 million returned to people, and anywhere from Redwater all the way up to Fort McMurray. So significant area of loss where people were losing stuff. The investigations are still on the go. Fort McMurray now is the lead on the aftermath of all of this, where things go from here. Athabasca's involvement here is only is very limited in what we're going with that outside of our initial file here. So, but it's all been given back, and it's we have a lot of happy people so far.
Thank you very much. Councillor Benson.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank all three of you for, I'm a huge advocate on going to the schools and being in public there and gaining respect and giving respect to the kids is a great way to start the advocacy to come on to the RCMP. So thank you very much for going out there and talking to the kids and in around the Halloween time and stuff like that. That's a great idea. Go out there and interact with them. So thank you very much, all three of you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Councillor Kapitainik?
I just thank you for coming today. I guess I had a question that was kind of a follow-up to Councillor Hall's statement there about the north of the river areas and how I guess if you've lived here long enough, something's just kind of become what I guess we would call common knowledge, and you almost forget that you should maybe be reporting those things to your local detachment. So I guess what would be some advice for us to respond to community members when they're speaking of, say, potentially seeing crime, maybe not actively happening, but seeing like the vehicles that may have been stolen, where they're put, when it just becomes like almost so common. It's like, oh yeah, so-and-so has got more trucks buying their property. Like, how should we be encouraging our community to remember that isn't just common knowledge for yourself?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, I mean, it's a lot of these areas here, you know who's coming into your area, you know who's not, what is unusual coming in there. So if you got a whole bunch of vehicles that you've never seen before actually heading into the area there, they might be up to something, they might not be up to something, but those are the kind of things that we really want to know. So we encourage people to report suspicious activity. And if people aren't feeling comfortable actually coming forward and putting their name forward, there's Crime Stoppers tips as well. 100% with that stuff there gets to us, and we look into every matter there. But it's so important that, I mean, the the value of the information that we get from those can't be understated here. Got anything you wanna say on that?
Yeah, like I've had experience with the Crime Stoppers myself. Situation where I tried to stop an ATV and it took off of me, but I had the subject on my camera and dash cam. So I took a snapshot of that and put it out to Crime Stoppers, and the flood of tips that came in led to an arrest. And when I get the tips from Crime Stoppers, it just tells me the information. I don't see who gave me the information, where it came from, anything. It's just like, it's John Smith. And that's it. Right? So I encourage people to use Crime Stoppers. It's very valuable and they can get cash rewards for stuff, right? So why not use it? Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Gerlach.
Yeah, sometimes there's a little gray area when people don't really understand what constitutes the load restrictions, like an unsecured load. Like, is it, if something's level with the box and not going over, but it's loose in the box, is that an unsecured load or really what are the parameters?
Well, it would really depend on what material you got in there. So, I mean, each situation would be dependent on what's in there.
Then some guys are on a back road, they got a 2-mile bale haul and they don't really want to strap the whole load down and whatever, if they're not on the pavement, not on height.
Yeah, when it comes to hay, a lot of those loads don't require straps. You see them semi trucks going down the highway with those, I don't know, they got 30 bales or whatever on there and they're not strapped in at all. It's just, and they're exempt from that stuff.
Just with a kilometer radius, so if you're going
Yeah.
farm field to farm field, or within I can't remember what the actual kilometer radius is, but. So if it's a farmer just taking farm bales from the field to store at his place and it's down the road, there's no requirement to strap those, but if you're going from northern Alberta to sell hay down south, yeah, that's totally different. That'd be a commercial carrier then, right? So, yeah, and I think obviously if the bales are falling off in the ditch, we're gonna get called and still intervene, but they still have to be in a safe fashion. You can't go down the road like the old days with the square bales going like this.
And negligence is negligence.
Yeah.
And that's not permissible under any
No, for
circumstance.
sure not.
Okay, good, thank you.
Awesome, please go ahead.
Sorry, the other question that I made note of during your presentation, there's been a lot of conversation about crime attributable to a few maybe productive individuals. I'm wondering what advocacy you need from us, because it seems to me that in, many of these cases, they're home before you are after an arrest. And as a citizen, it's unacceptable to me that, you can do the job and do your job and catch them, and then they're busy, they're basically, it's a minor interruption to their business and they're back at work right away. So what advocacy do you need from us? What help can we give you when we interact with the province?
We had some frustration, obviously, with the bail hearings. That's where you bring somebody for justice of the peace to determine what their release is going to be, if they are going to be released. Obviously, we have some input, but it is mainly dealt with, by the Crown Prosecutor and Defense Counsel. So the threshold that I've been told is if you have no outstanding court matters or any conditions in place. So say you got caught with a stolen vehicle, but you just got out of jail 3 weeks ago for it. Well, you're not going to have any outstanding court matters and you're not going to have any breaches because your conditions are already gone from those other matters. So essentially, in that view, you will be released. So they don't really hold your criminal history. Like, you might have a 10-page criminal record. That doesn't seem to come into play as much as it used to. So I don't know how long ago that really changed that parameter, but I think it comes down to politics above me, where the incarceration rates might not be able to be handled by the system, where the jails are full. I've heard a lot of things where it's property crime, it's not a victim crime. So, it's not involving violence. So I can see some of the points of view, but as far as the attitudes, I would say pressure your local representatives to really try to be advocates for keeping some of the worst of our worst in the system. That's what's gonna probably do is the public pressure from their elected officials for sure.
I will just add to that. One of the things we find in these rural areas here are property crime is our major concern. Violent crime is maybe not as prevalent in necessarily in some certain locations. It's still an issue and needs to be addressed. I'm not saying that, but property crime needs to be, in my opinion, taken a lot more seriously. And people need to be held a lot more accountable for that behavior because it does impact everybody. I mean, we're talking about you become a victim of break and enter. You could lose valuable items out of that. You may feel like you become a victim from insurance companies because now you have to deal with that insurance company or maybe you don't have insurance from that. And then you have to go back through this process into the court systems and maybe that person's already gotten out or that person doesn't get the kind of penalty was expected from you as a victim in there. So it's a system here that to me doesn't truly address the underlying behaviors. And I know that from my perspective here, I think if you were to advocate on behalf of some change in that regard, that would be ideal. We are in this detachment here in the Athabasca detachment here, we're looking at different ways to actually make an impact here and start changing behavior instead of just the catch and release. I mean, we can catch and release. I get stats in front of me here that I've got arrests upon arrests upon arrests. And I'm sure these two have the same, and it doesn't change these guys' behavior. I have an individual who was a youth, now is 18 years old, not in this area here, but within my patrol area here. He went from listed as number 44 in the province of offenders to now down to number 21 over this past year here. Arresting this individual is not changing his behavior. So I'm looking at a lot of different ways to make some changes here on that and behavior change. So I'm open for ideas as well.
Are there ways that you can provide examples just when we're talking to our MLA, we can provide sort of anonymous examples, but say like these are the patterns that we're seeing, like what at a different venue or a different time, can you give us some help so that when we're talking to our MLAs, you know, Jean and Van Dyke, and we can say these are the kind of things that are happening to put some context on it for them. So they understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can do that. I've done that for the town of Athabasca as well. Mayor Rob Belay, provided him some statistics on how people are being released or why people are being released. No names, we can't obviously include that stuff there, but some real statistics here on what's actually happening here, and he's taken it to the province as well. So I will happily give that information over.
And it seems to me that, you know, the more time you spend dealing with repeat offenders, like if you pull them out of the system, now you've got time to address other problems. Like it's like, I don't know. Thinking of a colleague who'd use examples. It's like having a nail in your tire and just continuing to fill it with air. Like at some point you gotta plug the hole, not just keep adding to the.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to what Mark was saying is the same thing, right? If they're out of the community long enough, they can dry out for some of their problems, or at least be provided some support. That side needs to be addressed, and there's not much we can do. If they come back before they're only in jail a week, well, they're still in that craving mode where their substance abuse issues are still rampant. And then they're gonna go back to their circle that feeds their crime addictions as well, where their buddies are all in the same boat, where they might be 4 or 5 guys going around stealing vehicles, and that's all they know, how to make some money. So and you have to realize when the drug trade, people aren't going with $20 of cash all the time. They're bringing stolen property to get their addiction fed. So it's kind of twofold. They need to steal to feed their addiction, and their addiction's just governing over them. They don't care. So.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, I think, as always, we appreciate you and your teams and all the work that you do and the challenges that you face. Some very difficult calls, that you're also dealing with, and we really appreciate you being here today to share all of the success that you do have and all the hard work that you are doing. So thank you so much for being here today. And we look forward to seeing you again real soon. Awesome. And we'll just take a recess here, folks, for about 3 or 4 minutes. All right. We'll reconvene here after our delegation this morning. We have another delegation at 11, so we are at 7.4 of our agenda, the RMA Spring 2025 submitted resolutions, page 103 of your package, your agenda package. And I believe, Councillor Hall, you want to start the conversation?
I added this to the agenda because I think it's important that council go, have some discussion of these items in advance and that we have some thoughts on what, if anything, we feel collectively or how we're going to speak so that we don't end up with 9 councillors going off on their own agenda at the meeting and at the RMA. So I was hoping that you would lead us through them and talk about each one to the extent that council wants to. And when I looked at them, I think the lens that I was trying to look at them through is number one, is this a top 10 critical advocacy issue for all municipalities in the province? And is this really an RMA issue? Or does it belong with some other organization or local advocacy? Because some of them, when I think about RMA and the job we're asking, them to do it from an advocacy point of view, I think we need to put the brakes on 30, 25, whatever it is, resolutions per meeting. So if you're adding even 20 per meeting twice a year, the exponential growth of that, it's nuts. They need to focus on critical things that matter to all municipalities. And we, as municipalities, need to have the courage to say, no, this is a local issue. You need to deal with that with your own lobbyist or whatever. And so that's why I put that here, and I'll leave it to you to carry us through them.
Well, when we look at these resolutions, of course, these are from other jurisdictions and municipalities. So I'm not sure. I'll ask council, do you want to go through each and every single one of these, or are we prepared to deal with this at the time of RMA? I know you mentioned you don't want people to go off on their own agenda. I guess more than anything, when we're doing the question and answer period, that is an opportunity for councillors to have some of their questions answered. So I'm not quite sure exactly where you would like to go with this. I mean, we can look at each and every one, but I think that would be quite onerous. We have the information here. Is there anyone that you would like to pick out that you would specifically like to discuss? I'm happy to, for me personally, I've read through these and ready to go for the RMA, but I'm not necessarily sure our public wants to go through each and every one, but is there one you would like to specify that you really have?
I kind of think that's the job, but I do have one, but I would wait to hear from council first, and because I don't want to hog the floor on that issue.
Okay, I'll leave it up to council. Does council have, go ahead.
At the very least, I had noted a few that I'd like to ask administration a couple questions on to see how they affect us in our municipality compared to the background information that was provided from the submitting municipalities, just to see if we're facing the same concerns or if maybe these things aren't necessarily as big of a concern here at home.
Okay, please go ahead. I'm not sure if you're prepared for all of those questions, but please go ahead.
So the first one would be related to resolution 425S, the reevaluation of wetlands policies to streamline road construction and improvements in rural Alberta. Through the chair to administration, do we feel that the wetlands policies currently in place are impacting our road construction schedules, or are we just not doing anything to that extent at this point?
So, Madam Chair, you know what, I can't speak to that in terms of Athabasca County. I can speak to it from my past experience. Yeah, it's a factor, and it absolutely can impact our infrastructure through a wetland. The process is costly, it's lengthy, and we end up paying what's called wetland compensation generally to receiving bodies. Not all groups in the province are receiving, and I know that one of them is Ducks Unlimited, and there's no guarantee that if you provide damages in your own municipality that those funds stay in your municipality. They could go anywhere. So I'm very familiar with this issue. I can't say how it has impacted our county. Just my history isn't there, but I personally do support this resolution. I think that we do need streamlining of that. So this one is well founded.
Councillor Anderson, do you have another one or?
I believe Counselor Hall wants to talk about number 7 before I move down the list.
I guess I mean, earlier than that, even number 2-25, when I read through that, you know, the idea of a Minister of Rural Municipal Affairs to me seems like a colossally bad idea. I don't know how you end up with a two-headed ministry that ministers tend to be responsible for individual pieces of legislation. And now you have two ministers responsible, like, it just doesn't seem like a practical, well thought out way to manage small government and to keep a holistic view of municipal interactions. It seems to really be, you know, something that will add red tape. And as I read it, it looks like it just divides urban and rural more. And I think we need less division and not more. So I didn't really like that one. I had number 7 listed as one that I think warrants some serious conversation.
When you mentioned number 7, you're talking the proposed.
7-25S, which would be on page 123 of your agenda.
Right. You want
And,
to just read out what that is so the public understands. What you're
and so
referring
that is, you know, a proposal or a resolution that looks to advocate to amend the Alberta Housing Act and the Management Body Operation. But many of the arguments in that resolution are both misdirected, they are factually untrue. And it's got a lot of buzzwords, but it's not productive and it's not good fiscal management to do what they're advocating to do. This is a local issue that they may have in one municipality, but there's no evidence that this is a broader provincial issue. And so, you know, you read about taxation without representation, and I mean, that was the rallying cry, I think, to begin the American Revolution and the Boston Tea Party, if I can remember my history class. So there's a number of statements in there that I think council should understand, because this is going to get some discussion, I'm sure, on the floor of the convention. The third paragraph talks about housing board members are appointed and not elected. I mean, that's only partially true, but it's without context. Housing board members typically are elected to councils, and then the councils appoint them to the board, just like we appoint members to the Waste Commission, the Water Commission, the Multiplex Society. So the housing board members are at some level elected and accountable. They're just appointed by their council. So I think we have to look at some of these things and be careful with the style of argument that drives you to a conclusion that isn't necessarily an accurate one. Where the fourth paragraph talks about housing management boards operate with autonomy. And the way I read that sentence is it's trying to portray that in a negative light. That actually is just good governance. Housing boards must operate with autonomy. Commissions must operate with autonomy. And that's how the law works. They are not an arm of the council, and they need to be autonomous in how they make their decisions, just like the Waste Commission or the Water Commission is here. And so the suggestion that it's a bad thing is a bit of a worry. And now most of you will know that through my role on Greater North and in other involvement with our council, I've tried to regularly advocate for us to think about good fiscal responsibility and long-term planning, especially as it relates to the renewal of assets that we're entrusted with. And really, I mean, in my opinion, we're stewards of other people's assets, and they come to us, we are to look after them and then hand them off to the next successor in as good or better condition. The Greater North Board, which would be affected by this, has been working for 3 years to set up a capital replacement reserve that will begin to build funds to maintain and properly look after the major capital items of the $20 to $50 million worth of buildings. I can't remember the exact number, but I want to say, the built infrastructure at cost was $28 to $30 million. And at the moment, there is no material capital replacement reserve. And I think it's responsible for the board to, over a long period of time, slowly accumulate money so that when the shingles need doing, the boilers, the windows, all of those capital components, that the funds are available to look after them. Because these are properties that look after our seniors. They look after our residents and they look after, you know, eventually, potentially some of us will live there. And so I would propose to you that that is just good fiscal responsibility. The other statements in there that are factually just not right. Number one, it talks regularly and repeatedly throughout the thing about it collecting, we'll say, quote, municipal funds. And then also that it disproportionately impacts larger contributors. Both of those statements are misleading from the perspective that it, number one, does not touch municipal funds. Housing foundations do not use municipal funds. They're just like the school board. They are separate requisitions. And so to suggest like whatever the housing board does, it has zero impact on our budget. And so I'm troubled by the suggestion that that's the case. They're typically based on, there's a couple exceptions, but they're based on assessment. So, you know, a $300,000 house assessed in any municipality impacted by the board's collection area is impacted equally. So to say that it disproportionately impacts larger contributors, there are no larger contributors. Everybody contributes the same. And so those are the things that I mean, in a nutshell, that's the bulk of what's gone on here. It's this repetition of there's a suggestion that creating reserve funds is not fiscally responsible, which I think is, you know, is internally inconsistent. It doesn't logically flow. And then a couple other comments like poor governance practice discourage investment and reduce the profitability of local industries such as oil and gas. I mean, seriously, that is a nutty statement if I've ever heard one. Now, like, yes, $10 will reduce their profit, but oil and gas, like a minor tax increase will affect profits a little bit, but not in any material way. As context, in Wheatland County, who is the sponsor of this, their rate is $10 per 100,000 worth of assessment. So a $300,000 house is going to pay $30 a year to their housing foundation. That's it. Anyway, this is one that I think is really a local problem that they're trying to make into a bigger provincial issue. I know there is not ministerial support for this, like the ministry does not support this kind of structure. The boards are individually set up by the minister where they assign who's on them. And this is one that I think is not worthy of RMA's attention, that I would encourage you to vote no on, especially because it's just, there's something not right with this.
No, we do have that opportunity to speak.
I will speak.
Okay, I was just gonna ask you, so you'll be coming forward to speak about that then?
Well, and as the foundation representative, I'll
Yep.
speak to the harm that will create.
Okay,
And it's also, it's a sensitive issue because we, in our own foundation, you know, we are very close to setting up a reserve. The motion that our council passed last meeting approved that and took care of some housekeeping. We actually approved it, I think, a year and a half ago. The impact, I believe, on 2025's tax bill of the reserve creation is something like $7 per year on a $300,000 household. So, you know, the argument that it's going to break somebody is, I mean, $7 is $7, but you know, I spent more money on a bagel and a coffee this morning than that impact is going to be. It's good management, and we should be encouraging the housing bodies to set up reserves and encouraging them to do that.
Okay.
And typically the minister sets out, you know, who gets how many seats. And I also don't buy the argument that's made in here that, you know, they're getting bullied and that they need control to produce good governance. As a board member or as a councillor, you individually have the ability to influence better governance practices at the table. And, you know, we've seen that around the region where, you know, the governance operations, how this council runs the meetings, I think has moved more along the better governance line, and certainly some of the other committees and boards I'm aware of. Anyway, it's It's a false argument that it uses municipal funds, and I hope that you would vote against it and also speak against it. And if you want, I'll give you a couple speaking notes to like email me and I'll give you a 2-line, this is a dumb idea because.
But yes, we, as you said, we'll hear from you at RMA at the mic, correct?
You'll hear, yes, I intend to speak because
Fantastic.
the foundation
Okay.
is
Which
detrimentally.
is the best forum to make that argument for sure. Okay. Is there any others that, go ahead, Councillor Anderson?
Thank you. Regarding resolution 1225S, which is about enabling service of offense notices for bylaw matters via ordinary mail. I just wanted to get administration's feedback on how that would affect our peace officer program and if they thought that would be a welcome addition.
Madam Chair, yeah, the resolution appears to be very sound. It affects us the same way that it affects Lacombe County, who originated the resolution. So their proposed advocacy would align with what we would support as well.
Thank you. Is there anything further?
When I wouldn't get up to speak to this at RMA, but when you go back to page 126 or resolution 825, and maybe administration can provide some other background, but when I look at this resolution to oppose Water Act amendments and the lack of consultation, I guess I kind of wonder, is that bringing municipalities into something that really is outside of our expertise, and should we be just leaving that to the experts? I don't know if the CAO has any thoughts on that.
Page is that?
126.
126.
Madam Chair, perhaps this council hasn't dealt with it, but I know this has been a huge topic in Alberta for years and years, and that is the concept of interbasin transfers. So their discussion item about not enough consultation before making amendments to the act to allow that. I would certainly suggest that that's a significant issue for us today. It could affect us in the future. Well, currently we're a region with sufficient water for our needs. There are other regions that don't have enough. So could they be looking at us in the future? Could we see pipelines to the south? Under the new Water Act, perhaps it's allowed. And so the resolution is probably would be reflected in concerns we might have here.
Okay, so it's a good one to be back.
If I could just piggyback on that through Athabasca Watershed Council and all the WPACs across the province, this has been discussed over and over and over regarding the interbasin transfer of water, and it is becoming a bigger issue just due to the fact that southern Alberta is very much looking at doing this and pushing to get stuff like this done, dam setups, different things like that. It's incredible what they're actually looking at, and they're throwing out the warnings, and it's a good thing the WPACs are actually looking into a lot of this stuff and understanding, having contacts with environment and stuff like that is huge. And because it is being talked about lots, not on the news, but
Background.
yeah, background discussion is huge.
Without a doubt, I mean, having our ESG conference in Lethbridge last year was quite relevant, but even with that fire and flood with the WPACs up in the Grand Prairie area, it was definitely hot topics for sure.
I'm just going to break in for a moment. Okay, so our delegation is here. Do you want to come back to this?
I think there's a couple others that might warrant
Okay.
a brief mention. I mean, these are things that the organization that we're a member of advocates for, and I think, we can approve grants all day, but these are the things that impact the lives of the people where we live, and I think it's important we have a robust discussion to say, do we have something to learn from, the CAO's comments, help shape how I'll view that when I get to push my voting device on Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever.
As
that
well,
is.
there will also be compelling arguments during the RMA while people have that
Yeah, usually.
conversation, whether they're for or opposed. And the speaker will also have the opportunity for the people who put in their motions. So I don't recall doing this in depth prior, but exactly, committee of the whole would be. And of course, it's after that, because this could take up quite a bit of time. But again, our delegate is here, so we'll just take a 2 or 3 minute recess while. Yeah, we're gonna table this one for sure. We'll come back to it. Yep. You vote in favor of tabling? All right. All those in favor to table this item until our delegate is finished their presentation? All those in favor? Yes. And opposed? 7 and 1. Thank you. All right. Good morning, and thank you so much for being here today. Is it Chelsea Kirby is with us here? We're doing a presentation. She will be doing a presentation on the Magnificent River Rats Festival Society that's coming up. And we'll start with introductions. So I'll start on my far right here.
Good morning, Joe Gerlach and the council from Division 1, the Rochester Fairville area.
Good morning, Rob Mintz, Division 8, Baptiste Lake Island Lake area.
Morning, Camille Walk, Division 9, north of the river.
Kelly Chamsick, Grassland, Prospita, Atmore areas, Division 7.
Good morning, Ashton Anderson. I reside in Division 3, which is the Caslan Boyle area.
I'm Jordan Schenkelberg. I'm the communications coordinator.
Leah Blair, recording secretary.
And Bob Beck, CAO.
And thank you so much for being here. I'm Tracy Holland, which is Division 5, east of Athabasca, Amber Valley and Paxton areas, as well as Reeve for the county. So missing, and we'll be back, is Councillor Kapitaniak. She's in Division 2, and Councillor Hall, Division 4. They will be joining us here shortly. And go ahead with your presentation, please. Yes, please. Okay.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm Chelsea Kirby and nice to meet everybody. I know some familiar faces, but so I am the vice president of the Magnificent River Rats Festival. I've been with the society for the last 5 years. Fred was supposed to join me as well. He's been with the society for 6 years. He is the president of the River Rats Society. So we've had some ebbs and flows in our society, different members that have come and gone, but we've been pretty consistent for the last little while. And we've moved in the last year to try and make the festival a free festival for our community. because we find that it just draws more family members. It makes it easier for them to enjoy the Canada Day events. They kind of come and go as they please. And we've had a pretty good turnout. So we'll kind of go through what we have so far. So we do have, you can see Dallas Arcan up at the top there. So I'm just in the midst of talking to his agent, and we're hoping to have him back this festival. So he's a great presenter, and he's very interactive with the kids, and he connects to the Indigenous culture in our community. And we think that's important. So obviously funding helps with the cost of security and stage production. You know, like our headliner, for example, costs about $5,000 just for that. And that's just for the one day, and that's just one performer, right? So we do try, like I stated, we want to try and make the festival a free festival for our community, Athabasca County, as well as we have lots of members from Boyle that comes, and then the town of Athabasca as well. And then we just very much appreciate what you guys already do for us. You've always done the fencing for us, and Public Works has really been at the forefront of us setting up. And your donation for that has been amazing over the years, and we're very grateful for that. Obviously, having a free festival brought out families with young children. Donations at the main gate were accepted last year. June 30th, we had over 1,500 attendees. July 1st, we had over 2,000 attendees. And we counted the attendees by wristbands. So we'll probably do that again this year. Or we might have clickers at the door. We haven't quite figured that out yet. But I think it's important because we do apply for some grant funding as well, to know how many numbers we're bringing in and if it's worth it to keep it a free event, or kind of getting that feedback from people. If they want bigger headliners, then we might have to have a ticket price. But people are quite enjoying that it's a free event. So we're going to try and keep it there. So this kind of breaks down the volunteers that we have. Donated hours of 792 hours. I did a calculation. If we were to pay all those volunteers, say 23, 24 bucks an hour, it would work out to over $19,000 for the weekend. So it's pretty amazing. We have an amazing community of volunteers that come forward and work with us, and it's really well organized. The volunteer aspect is kind of my baby, and I've done it over the years, and everybody's been, it's just, I'm shocked every year on how many people we get to come forward and enjoy the music festival. We also have, like, we partner with like the Classic Cruisers, the art show, Watershed, Strawberry Tea, United Church. So they're going to be doing a sermon on the first day for everybody, and then the pancake breakfast. I'm not sure about the tennis ball drop yet. I haven't heard from them. And obviously the Chamber of Commerce, there's been some stuff going on with them. So we're trying to figure out the whole fireworks and the parade. So if they're not able to do the parade, we aren't able to take it on, but I'm kind of hoping that some of the previous chamber or maybe Todd will still organize it. We're gonna maybe try and bribe them or something. I don't know. We don't really have the capacity to do the parade as well as the festival. We are willing, if the chamber's not able to, we are willing to do the fireworks. So I've been in discussion with Chief Chalapay, and we're trying to organize that in regards to liability insurance and stuff for that. So yeah, we've got, he's got a guy, Rob, that usually comes down to do it. So we're starting to do that just in case the chamber can't do it. I don't really know what's happening. I guess we'll find out on the 13th with all of that. Yeah, we have many community partners. Home Hardware has done the Kids Zone for the last couple of years, and that's been a huge hit. It's really nice to have families to be able to send their kids to have a blast for the day. The parents can enjoy the music and the entertainment and socialize with people and not have to worry because it is a fully gated area and we do have people sitting at every gate. So the security of the children are very important and at our forefront. But we also want the parents to enjoy the entertainment at the same time too. So Home Hardware has been a huge contributor to our tours. And then we have the market too in Athabasca County, town of Athabasca. Alpac has been a good donator. TC Energy actually just approved funding as well. So they are sponsoring our security this year, which is great. They wanted to do that for us. So we're able to get a security company to come in, protect everything at nighttime while the festival is closed and not have to worry. Last year we had volunteers do it. So they were doing the night shift and we had a trailer down there and they were camping out. But this year, at least it'll give the volunteers a little bit of break and nobody has to do the night shift. So we're very grateful for that. Obviously, like I stated, planning's underway. We did do the lineup this past weekend. So we met on Sunday and we picked what bands are going to be performing. So I'm just in communication with their agents and their, up and coming bands that are, we try and bring in the new bands to get them on stage and get them some good PR in the public eye, right? So we have lots of new entertainers coming in too, which is great to see that. And then, yeah, that's it. That's all I got for you. You guys have any questions for me?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll turn it over to the counselors and just before I do though, a quick comment. Thank you very much for all you guys do to put this together. It's a very popular event and well received in the community and really
Yeah.
appreciate the hard work that goes into it.
Thank you.
There's a lot of hard work that goes into that. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. Does anybody, please, Counselor Capitani?
I'll take it. Thank you very much for coming today. I know that the rave reviews of opening the festival up to being a free festival were just heard far and wide. And the fact that more local performers could be showcased in, I want to say, a more cost-effective way.
Yeah.
Not because they're not amazing, but because it's like exciting to see your friends and family on stage as well. And I know one of the things, like you mentioned, or a little about the chamber. I'm not personally on the chamber, but I think one thing that we need to remind the community is the cost of the fireworks themselves. Having been always sponsored by businesses and different ways through the chamber. If that is a possibility that we may see that again, I don't know, I can't speak to that, but I know that it's a little tight on all the businesses like everywhere, and we all know that when prices go up on things, that's passed on to the consumer, and that can become also like less cash specific donations that businesses can make, which is what the fireworks require.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's not really more of a question, but just a shout out to all the people who have contributed to fireworks in the past, and that hopefully we can see that happen. And that as a community, we support those businesses so they can do those things for us.
Yeah.
But you guys, as well as an organizing committee, supporting you in any way that the community can as well, because you're already, working, volunteering, doing all the things that you do in the other parts of your life, and then putting the rest of your time into this festival. I just want to really bring attention to that.
Thank you.
Not just thank you, but like remind everybody that they can help too.
Yeah, absolutely. All donations are amazing. We have about $3,000 towards fireworks so far. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments, questions? I just have one. We do have, the county does have the grant for grants to organizations. Is it something that you've looked into to also apply for?
No.
Okay,
No.
so that's, maybe we can get some information
Yeah.
to you with regards to that. Councillor Capitani, you're okay with sending?
That's what.
For the more information. So yeah, definitely
you.
something you definitely want to,
Yeah.
look into for sure. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I was wondering what your budget is for this event, like total budget, and what the town of Athabasca usually contributes
So they usually contribute $3,000. And then they also contribute $3,000 towards the fireworks. So they separate it. I'm not sure how their budget works, but they have to separate it. I think maybe because the chamber used to do the fireworks, so it goes to a different organization. So in total, if we do the fireworks, it would be a total of $6,000 towards the festival.
Does that answer your question? You're good? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't answer the
Total
budget piece. Yeah, the total budget. So as of right now, entertainment I just did yesterday is 10,150 for just the bands. Security is the 4,000, which has already been sponsored by TC Energy, like I stated. And then for food, accommodations, the backline production. So sound and production is $9,000. So that includes the whole stage, all the equipment, everything the band needs to perform, as well as the sound guys out on the grounds, making sure that it sounds amazing. So that alone is $9,000. So I don't know, some quick math in my head, $23,000 roughly to run it for the weekend. Yeah.
Which is awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
All righty. Everybody, anybody? We're good. Well, Councillor Gerlach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think that typifies what community activities should look like.
Mhm.
And it gives exposure to local groups, like it seems to touch all the bases.
Yeah.
I can't do anything other than commend the whole theory, the idea of a community celebration.
Thank
It doesn't
you.
get much better.
Yeah. And this is our 29th anniversary. So next year will be our 30th that it's been running in the Athabasca area.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. All right. I think if nobody else has any other comments, thanks again
Yeah,
for coming
you're
and being with
welcome.
us here today and providing the information that you have. That's fantastic. And
Thank
we
you.
look forward to the festival coming up and best wishes with all the organizing that goes along with that. So thank you
Thank
so very
you.
much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Oh. We'll just take a couple of minutes before, if we could, well, 3 minutes recess while we say our goodbye. Jordan, we're ready to go. We're good to go. All right, we'll reconvene and we will pick up where we left off just before we had our delegate at 7.4 of our agenda, which are the RMA Spring 2025 submitted resolutions. Councillor Hall, do you want to pick up where we left off?
I just was looking at 9-25 and I don't know if it was at RMA or at an AB Munis conference I was at, but I recall the premier standing on the corner of the stage and saying, "This will not happen." And the hard part is we all have these same challenges, but stuff like this, I worry, is not a top 10 for RMA. And it's just another burden, and not a burden, but it's more on the plate that they don't need. These are local advocacy issues, and I don't even know what you would defund to get money for this. I mean, the province has got a multi-billion-dollar deficit. Like I'm not convinced that that's there. I had another one marked that I think wanted to ask to get administration's advice. The excuse me, the 11-25, the Net Zero Accountability Act. I just, without getting into the merits of what they're doing, I just wonder if that's really an RMA issue as well. Like I know this is a very particular issue that is some elected officials in the south are really passionate about. I'm just not sure that this is an RMA level issue, but I don't know if the CAO had comments or.
Madam Chair, there's really nothing administration can add to that.
And then I mean, I have thoughts about the uninspected meat, but that's okay. The 14-25, which is a public interest oil and gas company. If ever there was an example of getting out of your lane, like good grief, if private industry can't do it, does anybody honestly think municipalities will be able to run an oil and gas company better than oil and gas experts? Like, like there's just, to me, that's quite a scary one. And I think it's worth saying that seems like a colossally bad idea, but maybe this, anything to add, boss, am I off track or?
Madam Chair, I hadn't had CEO of an energy company on my bucket list, so I agree with you about the concern of that. We have enough on our plate delivering municipal services to our residents. I can't see us operating a energy company.
The one that I really loved, which was the last one, and I don't know why that ended up at the last on the list, but is the decentralized provincial offices to stimulate economic growth. I believe the Premier even spoke about ideas like that during her leadership campaign at one of the so that one seems to have huge potential. We've all are aware of the Athabasca University work, that the lobby and the effort that went on to retaining jobs in rural Alberta. And one of the comments that got made frequently in that time was the cities don't have a preordained right to all the good jobs. And it is precisely the role of the government, including the provincial government, to set some of these things out in a way that benefits the rural economy. Because I firmly believe that, we cannot have a strong Alberta requires a strong rural Alberta. There is no way around that. You cannot have a strong provincial economy without a strong rural Alberta. And this is a really good way for the government to use their influence to help benefit rural communities. And we've seen it in Lacombe with AFSC. Obviously Athabasca University here. There's some things going on in Vegreville. It's just good news. So.
Thank you. Councillor Mins.
I wasn't gonna bring it up, but I will. 6-25S. Improving community peace officer support and safety is through the chair to administration. I think if I read that right, I went over it pretty quick. What's our thoughts of our CPOs packing guns, tasers, and all this stuff? And how much is it gonna affect us if that came in, that they could do that? Like the training and all that would be immense to be able to just even do something like that. To me, it could be another takeover of provincial police. All of a sudden, well, your CPOs can do this stuff, so hire more.
These guys spoke at Pembina District as well, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't there.
There was a report at the Pembina District by a CPO organization, and the chair of the district might be able to provide better information than me because of a better memory, but they did talk about some of these enhancements being potentially beneficial to them, and there's some study behind it. But I too am curious on our administration's perspective on whether this would be wise or would actually put them in our peace officers at greater risk.
Yeah, and exactly. That's what I was looking at, is like all of a sudden our peace officers are going to be able to start packing weapons and stuff like that. And it's like, that's a huge undertaking when you start looking at the act.
Madam Chair, it's already a huge undertaking to run a proper peace officer program. Any of the measures that are designed to increase officer support and safety in general, we would support. Because of the nature of the business, there is a lot of red tape and there's a lot of regulations. but it's driven at keeping the public and our officers and others safe. So in that instance, you understand why there's red tape. It's all about safety, both our officers, but also public. No concerns with their resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Hall.
I was just going to add that I think, some of this enhanced and consistent incident reporting, near miss reporting, and especially the, live monitoring of the location, like these are all things that are, there's no reason to not be behind for me when it like improves the safety of the people that that we ask to go out and keep our community in good shape. So it's.
Thank you. Alrighty, so does anybody else have any other resolutions they'd wish to discuss? No? All right, is there a motion on the floor to receive the RMA Spring 2025 submitted resolutions as information? Anybody want to take Councillor Anderson? Thank you. Councillor Anderson would like to move to receive the RMA Spring 2025 submitted resolutions as information. All those in favor? No opposed, so that would be 8-0. Thank you. Alrighty, the next item up is 8.1A, page 154 of your agenda, the community event calendars. I have a few, if I may add. On March 22nd at 4 p.m. we have the pierogi dinner at New Pine Creek Hall. And on every Friday, between 11:30 and 1:30, the Native Friendship Center does soup and bannock. As well, there is on March 27th, the Athabasca Native Friendship Center will be hosting a seniors yoga at 1 p.m. And just a shout out, the multiplex calendar online is another area of checking for our really awesome events that are happening at that facility. Anybody else? 4 for New Pine Creek. Yep. Pierogi supper. Yep.
Yeah, just a quick note, the meeting tonight in Atmore, they're gonna be discussing possible changes to the May 2nd dinner in Atmore, just as a heads up, but nothing confirmed yet. And I have the same thing, the community events calendar for the Arms Board. Lots of really great things happening.
Anybody else? Alrighty, if we could get a motion to approve as amended. Councillor Chamzik would like to approve the community calendars as amended. All those in favor? And no opposed, so that'd be 8-0. Thank you. Meeting calendars, 8.2, page 174 of your agenda package. I might lose my voice. Alrighty. If it's okay, I will begin on this one. We have a tentative meeting for community transportation at 1 p.m. on April 22nd. And I think that pretty much covers it for myself. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add? Councillor Anderson.
There's a Athabasca County Village of Boyle Intermunicipal Committee meeting on April 30th.
April 30th.
Also, if anybody can come up with an abbreviation for that committee name, that would be fantastic.
And I'm sorry, it's your intermunicipal?
It's very
IMC.
long.
IMC. There you go. IMC, yeah, for Boylan Town. Boylan County. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add?
That one, boil it.
Nobody else? All right. Go ahead.
20th, there is a steering committee meeting for is it steering?
March 20th.
It's relates to the water line. I just can't remember the the subtext of the,
2 p.m.
Which steering committee, I'm sorry?
March 20th.
Water?
Island Lake Water.
Iron Lake Round, okay. And that was March 20th,
Yeah, it's on Teams.
okay. A hybrid meeting, all right, Councillor Tamzik?
Just April 11th, Northern Lights meeting.
Northern Lights Library, and time?
At 10 o'clock, sorry.
10
in
a.m.?
Boyle.
And Boyle, all righty. Councillor Gerlach? Okay. Blue Heron on April 14th, at what time? 2:30. We're all getting sick. Alrighty, anybody else? Last chance. Is there a motion to approve the calendars as amended? Councillor Gerlach would like to approve the the meeting calendars for March and April as amended. With no further discussion. All those in favor? And opposed? 8-0, thank you. Alrighty, moving right along. Excuse me. We are moving to our reports. I just want to mention how much it is appreciated when the reports are coming in, how important they are. If we can start submitting minutes and whatever else we can to provide that information on what's happening in our committees, that would be fabulous. I believe the first one, and I will turn it over to Councillor Mins, 11.1H, the Athabasca Intermunicipal Development Plan Committee.
That's the abbreviation. Well, I guess everybody's seen the agenda that was sent out to everybody regarding this meeting with the attachments and that. And we had a sit down with the town on March 5th, 9 a.m. Discussed ACP grant, discuss the multiplex. There'll be more discussion coming in that. I'm pretty sure it'll be enclosed. Yeah, actually, it was a very good meeting. Everybody had some good discussion points and all that. Emergency planning, collaboration together, EV charging network. That's where the town is actually getting involved with a committee that's looking at EV chargers across northern, I think it's the northeastern side of Alberta, and of where these could be put and stuff like that. But yeah, that and we'll be able to probably have more discussion closed regarding more about the meeting. My counterparts, please chime in.
It was a good discussion and it gave us a good idea of the perspective of our neighbors, and I think it was a really productive way to start kind of laying the groundwork for future discussions. And you know, everybody, it reinforces that everybody's really working to figure out the right pathway, the right decisions for the long term in our region, and how we can collaboratively work together. And I think maybe cleared up, you know, a couple of things where there was the views weren't in alignment. We're able to align what we were thinking, and it was really useful and good.
Thank you very much for your report. Does anybody have any comments, other comments, questions?
Just
ahead.
one other thing, and somehow I became co-chair. So, and Reeve Holland is assistant alternate co-chair, so.
And I believe it was Mayor Belay is co-chair for the town, and the alternate
Yes,
was
John.
Councillor Measure.
Yeah.
Yep. Alrighty. I just wanted to make a quick mention. Thanks again for the reporting that's happening here. There's a lot going on with the multiplex. And that includes some concerns that have been brought forward from the public. And their concern, I just wanted to kind of mention, it's a bit concerning, of course, with regards to some of what I would almost say is a bit misleading on the newspaper articles and other platforms portraying that the multiplex is in dire straits. For me, I think the public needs to be rest assured that the multiplex is not at risk, and that we're working very hard at coming together and formalizing the understanding between the owners and whatnot in arms that is mentioned in the documents that we're seeing. And all that work is going to be done, of course, through the intermunicipal committee with regards to those agreements. And that work has started and has been ongoing and will continue. So I'm looking forward to seeing those agreements coming forward when they're able, and rest assured to the public again that the multiplex is not at risk. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to? Go ahead, Councillor Hall.
Have you spoken, like, I mean, I appreciate you sharing that with all of us, but have you spoken directly to the chair? Guess that sounds like a conversation that needs to happen with the board first.
In what way?
Have you spoken to the chair about those problems?
I'm just responding to the public and their concerns in the newspaper, and then in the conversations that we've had with regards to the intermunicipal committee, as well as what you had mentioned the other day.
The other, there was a comment made about submitting minutes to the reports, and I know that is the preference of some members at the table. I think that's ultimately a council decision, and would like to say, as it relates to reports, I find a report far more valuable than a set of minutes. To have a couple of paragraphs that summarize the highlights is, for me, much more useful in terms of the context and the things that are going on. So I really enjoy seeing a report like we've seen here, or like versus just an agenda package that's 15 pages of reading. That this is nice because when I'm reviewing the agenda, you can get a sense of what's going on over 2 or 3 pages versus, a big bulky package. I have confidence in the colleagues who are appointed to these other things to filter them out and bring the cream to the table and let the skim milk go off on its own. So I'm happy. I'm happier with report.
Thank you. Does anybody else? All right, is there a motion to receive the reports presented as information? Councillor Chamsey? No further discussion? All those in favor? No opposed, so 8 and 0. All righty. So that motion, I was gonna say, we're coming into our closed session items. So motion to go into closed is by Councillor Mins. All those in favor? No opposed, so 8 and 0. We are now in closed session. All righty, folks. So we can wrap up the in closed session. We have a couple of motions that have come out of in closed. The first one, where are we at? It's 12.1, which was section 24, advice from official on lands. And the motion Councillor Wallach would like to make is to direct administration to provide consistency within the county by following the suggested paths forward in the recreational and facilities overview presentation. All right, is there any discussion? All right, so I'll take that question. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed? 2. So 5 and 2. All right. The next motion and close was 12.2, which is section 24, advice from officials, PW shop. And the recommended motion from Councillor Mins is to direct administration to move forward with the approved funding agreement for studying the feasibility of the new public works building, achieving zero carbon and net zero energy use in Athabasca, Alberta, and to approve a budget line item for a new shop project for $65,000 for the 2025 budget. Is any discussion? All right, to the question, all those in favor? And opposed? You're in favor? Okay, 7-0. And the last item we have is relates to item 12.5, which is section 19.1 of the FOI Pact of evaluations. And council would like to adopt level A of the pay grid as presented and closed, and further to advance the CAO to step 5, retroactive to January 1, 2025. All those in favor? And opposed, sorry? Oh, who made that motion? Sure. I did. And again, all those in favor, it was hands up, everybody, 7-0. All righty. And I think we can officially call ourselves adjourned, correct? Yay. At 2.